So with that understanding of what you're going to do, I was asked to talk a little bit about the literature review. Literature reviews are common across all fields. Everybody who's writing a dissertation or getting a graduate degree has to understand what a literature review is, and yet they're very hard. I see a lot of master's students who sort of can't do it, they don't get it, and it's hard to explain what it is. But there are some ways to think about this that will help you get into what is a literature review. And a good literature review will set you firmly in the discipline as a voice in conversation with more senior scholars. So it's really an important psychological step, identity step. So it's a conversation to create new knowledge and discourses. It's not a thesis support or claim evidence kind of activity, right? You're placing yourself in other people's conversations. And I actually think thesis support or claim evidence is relevant to professional writing, professional activity. If my plumber comes and tells me I need 3/4 inch copper pipe, you know, and I say back, that's his claim, I say, okay, I want to use PVC, why can't I? He's going to have evidence for his claim, right? That's sort of an adult move here. But that's different than the epistemic writing. And I want you to try to think about what you're doing. The larger project is question and answer, a problem or solution. Right? It's a finding of a question, the finding of a problem, and the working out of what would create a better situation. So literature reviews cluster the scholars that precede it. It's the knowledge that comes before, and there are different formats. I think in Ed's, you tend to just list the name and the dates, right? The clustering is a lot of work that looks facile. It looks really easy when you see that name and dates particular move. But it involves a lot of research, so you get those 114 articles that you start with, and you got down to 50. All right, those 50's got to get clustered. Maybe 10 you can throw away, you know, and maybe only 20 are really important to asking your question or defining your problem. But you're going to have to start clustering them in ways that note their omissions, their flaws, their next step. Oh, I didn't finish italics here. Oh well. Or their implications. See, I didn't get to proofreading. So when you get these 20 articles that you're fussing with, you really are looking for a relevant question or an important problem. And so that's what you're going to be clustering them to do. Say, oh, look at, no, everybody's omitted to talking about this. Or nobody's discussed the implications of this discovery. Nobody's told us what to do next. Now, what this breaks down to is a truism that has been around for decades. And that is, some say X, some say Y. I say Z. And so when I say that writing a good lit review puts you in the discourse, puts you right in there equal to the famous Professor Sum and the famous Professor Sum, and you get to be right there with them, it's a really important, powerful move. It's a way to take authority, that is authorship, author yourself in the academy, and some of it can be done through simply the jargon and discursive patterns of your discipline. So I borrow these templates from a book that is given to undergraduates, they say, I say. And it wouldn't hurt to get a hold of it. They're sort of all over. I don't know what edition it's in. You can get them cheap on Amazon. The library may have them. But I just pulled out a couple for you to make it easy to get a sense of how you're going to place yourself in the literature. Now, this is perhaps moving one step beyond that initial clustering and getting to the sense where you're finding a place for your own voice. And disagreeing is probably the easiest thing to do. My first book was about, the first 3 chapters were all disagreeing. Nah, wrong! You know? And I sort of needed to clear that space to have the authorship to do the next, right? But it was sort of clearing a place with a machete, you know, I got in my way. So, and I gave, these are a couple of, either exact quote or paraphrase. This is plagiarism from Joe Graff and Kathy Wittgenstein here. But X's claim that something rests upon questionable assumption that something, right? So you just fill that in. It creates a space. By focusing on that, X overlooks the deeper problem of, that sort of move helps you read people critically and begin to cluster them while it's clearing space for you. If you think for a moment, you probably can think of something where, Professor Lyons claimed that, Eric's claim that rests upon the questionable assumption that, I'll make it through my orals or whatever, you know what I mean? Those sort of fill in the blank. Can you fill in a blank for one of these just before we go on? Just to get a sense of how this works.
Sure, I can make one for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of in a higher ed context, like by admission standards focusing on GPA and SAT scores, they're overlooking the deeper problem of socioeconomic, environmental factors.
Great.
Good. And it's that easy. Right now, I'm writing a paper by focusing on an institution. They're overlooking the deeper problem, of the not problem, but the concerns of the students, whatever. It's pretty easy form to get you thinking. And then I talk about method and jargon. These jargons create knowledge for you. They position you in a way to create it. Now, it's better to agree with the difference because the bottom line is you're going to be working with these people you're agreeing and disagreeing with for the rest of your professional life. So the machete approach has its uses, but be sure you don't.
Don't hack them down too much.
Yeah, and it's often sort of seeing the world in black and white is usually not so nuanced as we are in the academy. But okay, so here are a couple of examples. X is surely right about that because as she may or may not be aware, recent studies have shown. So you can go in and support a continued line, and then you can axe her, right? But she has failed to, by focusing on that, she has missed, right? Or X's theory of is useful because it sheds light on the difficult problem of. And then you, by starting to define the problem you're going to work with here. Okay. Or another frame here. Agreeing and disagreeing. And this is ultimately the move that builds allies, because if you're going to write with people, write in a discipline. So X is correct that, but she is on dubious grounds to claim that. So you can say that this is a more realistic claim. That the overclaim has this problem. Or although I concede that X, I still insist that we need to look further at. Whereas X provides ample evidence that, this is good, X and Z's research on this and this alternative demonstrate good. So this is putting not yourself in here, right? You're leaving out you are positioning, and that when you do the lit review, you're finding voices that allow you to progress. Both people who allow you to progress because they've left something out or not focused correctly, and people that provide you the ample evidence to make your next step. Do you have questions about lit reviews? I know I'm going fast, but I wanted to get out the idea that writing is a process, and you really do have to see it as layered.
I guess my thought is, to put it bluntly, some of it seems kind of negative, and you're highlighting limitations. At some point in the lit review, is it okay to focus on some of the positives that key contributions to the field that you're studying, or key contributions to the literature?
I think you might start a lit review with, for example, over the last decade, the field has turned to these concerns and revealed new insights into it. That kind of positive things, and listing the people who came up with the new insights. You might give 4 examples that discuss particular scholars and those insights more fully. But ultimately, you're going to have to raise a question or have a problem, right? That is ultimately what you
Because we
need.
need to create our own niche.
You need to create your own niche. And you only can do that, it doesn't matter where you are in the career. Senior people tend not to quote so much. It's a certain arrogance, but you can be sure they're going to conferences and reading. I get some of the people work for my stuff, and I know they're working for my stuff, and they didn't footnote me. Oops, I'm sorry. But I get them, I do the same to them. I don't quote you, I don't like you. No, I mean.
Their influence, they should cite it.
There's a level, right? So one of the things you're doing, so you do need to create your own niche. And one of the things you're accumulating in your library research and in writing your earlier papers is a vast bed of material that you can call on for the rest of your career. That's why the idea that you can come back to the library or that you might need endnotes in the future is reasonable, because you are right now laying the foundation for future lit reviews. Now, more so in education than in the humanities, it's a moving target, so you can quickly become out of the conversation. In the humanities, we're still circulating around Confucius and Plato, and those questions that, oh, 1 minute, all right. So, quickly, writing is a practice, more like basketball than reading a book. People sometimes conflate reading and writing. It's just not true. Writing is productive. It's a productive activity. It's harder. You know that, and you just simply be doing it now. So read articles and dissertations to discover your conventions, but apply them in your writing. If you see a sentence you like in someone else's work or a move you like, be sure to apply it, so it's a practice that stays with you. Writing groups will hone your skills of reading and writing reflectively, and I gave NIMSIC a paper, a full handout on starting effective dissertation writing groups, but not just dissertations, any writing group, from Stanford University. And she has a copy of that which she can share if people want to start writing groups. So they really are important. I had a writing group all the while I was an assistant professor. I don't so much anymore, but they really are important. And you can hire an editor when you are all through the process. If you are really worried about sentence level stuff, then go find somebody who will edit it for you. They'll do it for money. Don't stress yourself out on that, because it just makes it interferes with knowledge creation. You can't have all the balls in the air at the same time.
That's what it seems like. Your first drafts, just try to get your thoughts and ideas on paper. Don't worry about the punctuality and the little details.
And then when you read it a week later, you'll say, oh, that was wrong. But that's good, because then you know it's more complex and it needs to be pulled out. And that's the layering that I talked about at the beginning. Thank you.